Well, hi everyone, Craig Dyer here, Training Director with Christianity Explored, and with me today, needing absolutely no introduction at all, our founder Rico Tice. Rico, it's great to have an opportunity to talk to you today. I'm glad you got the memo about the blue shirt.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry I don't have the ability to grow a beard. I'm afraid I'm so unmanly. So anyway.
Oh dear, what a tragedy. No, not at all. It's great to see you and good to have an opportunity. Now, Rico, we really are reaching out to church leaders and gospel workers, really all over the world, because there is an extraordinary opportunity in these days, and you've just developed, from the burden of your own heart, a resource that we're going to be making available to them. And before we get to that in detail, let's go back a little stage and tell us about your own experience of COVID so far, with the family and so on. How's it been for you in lockdown over these last 12 weeks or so?
Well, I think like anybody, one of the things that's happened is that we've gone from an experience of death being taboo to death being pretty central. So we've had a couple of relatives elderly that we can't get to that we've been really worried about. So that shadow's been there. And of course, the church family. I mean, this is about that, again, being under real threat.
Yes.
Funerals to be taken. My next door neighbour lost both his parents, mum and dad. So just that feeling of the fragility of life, and also at the same time feeling unable to do much because on the technology, having to learn all of that. So it's just been an interesting learning curve, and having your diary wiped free.
Yeah, exactly. That is
diary
thing. Yeah, and you're obviously there in the centre of London, and one of the busiest cosmopolitan cities in the world, and suddenly people find their life unpicked, and they're struggling, aren't they, to get their heads around what has happened? Where has this come from?
Yeah, extraordinary. And then homeschooling too, you see. So you're not you're trying to do the kids at home, and they can't go in, and trying to explain it to a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
But cycling around London's been extraordinary with just nothing going on. I mean, you go for a bike ride, there's just nothing. I mean, it's been a weird thing.
It's the world looks like our world, but it's not behaving like our world. It's
yeah.
So what about the church family? Because I know that you have been impacted, that some have gone to be with the Lord, and there've been some real sad stories there.
Well, I think the loss of Peter Hart, which is in the video at the beginning, is the biggest issue. I mean, a 52-year-old paramedic who came to faith here and then met his wife Helen here, was part of the All Souls Orchestra, had moved down to Kent area, but very much a mate. And his there he was working in East Surrey Hospital, and his son was doing a placement there, who's a medic, and his daughter was on reception for the intensive care. So you just think of the drama of that, and then praying every day that he'd be okay. And the one of the consultants caring for him said that it was as though his heart, which was double the size when he died, had done 100 marathons. Wow. That's how hard he fought to live. But it was the viral dose that he took.
Yeah.
So he's a hero, really.
Yeah.
What he did.
And such a fit guy.
Fit, strong, and servant-hearted. Left being a management consultant to serve as a paramedic.
Amazing.
Helen, his wife, just lovely, dedicated Christians.
Yeah.
Just a really hard thing. And then we found that when we went through the church family and who was involved in the NHS one way or another, we had 170 workers.
Wow.
So we set up an 8 a.m. prayer meeting to support them, because Christians have a tradition of not leaving during plagues, but serving and giving their lives.
Yeah, amazing.
So, yeah.
And now you've mentioned video there, so let's turn to that now. So you've had a burden, you've had a longing to communicate, to speak to the world, to speak to London and the nations of the world about where we are at the moment. Tell us a little bit about how that grew and what passage you reached for to try and get something succinct for them.
Yeah, well, it was combining 170 workers, Pete and the loss of him, and then a passage, James 4, that Hugh Palmer, our rector, preached on at the start of the pandemic. So back in March, he opened James 4 and he said, you're not in control. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Actually, you're like a vapor that disappears, and you've got to depend on the Lord. And that passage was just ringing in my ears, because of course the key issue in that passage is presumption.
Yeah.
So don't presume on the Lord, and don't presume on these people who are risking their lives to be medics, to be NHS workers. You know,
Yes.
Of course, with the clap at 8 p.m, we're not presuming, but it was just trying to help people think that through.
Yeah.
The whole area of don't presume that life's a gift, and what these people are doing is a gift.
So it's as though in the midst of all the horror of what the nations are going through, there are moments of sanity when we suddenly see the vulnerability that we actually all live with all the time.
Yeah, I think the men I've grown up with have never not known what they'll do with tomorrow. And a lot of them have given very little thought to their mortality, and they've had to do both. And then you're saying, right, we're not in control of tomorrow. We are mortal. We don't know who's going to go. And therefore, what does the resurrection mean? It means that there's hope in the face of death. Yeah. But you need to be forgiven the fact that, in the past, you've just presumed these gifts and these goodness and God's kindness. I mean, the Lord has for a time withdrawn them to reset and make us think. Now, please think, but you can be forgiven the presumption, and you can have hope in the face of death. So trying to do that and put together a video that really, when somebody who's not a Christian and perhaps not that interested gets it, when they see Peter Hart on there and they hear about the medics, they go, well, look, fair enough. I think I owe this a listening because of the sacrifice these people have made. So it's a tribute to him and to the medics. They've won us the right to say something.
That is phenomenal. What you've done is you've put together a video, and what we'll see on the video is you effectively preaching through that issue and taking just under 10 minutes to unpack James 4 and apply it evangelistically.
Yes, with some quotes from Pete's widow, Helen, to illuminate some of the points, and beginning with him. Yeah. So to really have him as the reason to listen, because we just want to give a tribute to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's James 4 and Pete's life, and then at the end saying, do a course. Yeah. You know, I haven't named a course. It would be lovely if people wanted to do Christianity Explored, but actually I hope it'll go all around the world, and whatever people are putting on, they can send that out and then say, actually, this is the course that we recommend. So just wanting to really give it as a gift, and not say you don't have to just do Christianity Explored, just do something, because there's some big questions here that we're asking. Do you still think you're in control? How long do you think your life is? You know, what do you think about the Lord, and the fact that life's a gift, not a given? You know, those questions.
That's great.
What do you make of the person of Christ and Good Friday and Easter Day? Just go to a place where you can ask them and pursue them.
Now, for gospel workers, church leaders watching this, how best can they use this resource? What's your vision for its use?
Well, I've WhatsApped it round my friends, family, colleagues at All Souls to send that out. I think because it's Pete's story at the beginning, people will give that a hearing. And then just say at the end, well, do you want to follow up on that, on some of what he raised? And of course, it will always be, you know, the English classically go quiet if they don't want to do anything, but some will be asking questions. And just to say, Craig, there's no question at the moment that doors are opening spiritually that have not opened for years.
Absolutely.
People are stopping and thinking. We've just had a really good number on our virtual Christianity Explored last night, much more than we normally get in the summer, because people are thinking. So send it along. In fact, I must tell you, Easter Saturday, I went up the street and asked people to the online service at All Souls, and I've never had an experience where I felt people going, actually, you should be asking me. Thank you for the invite. I've always felt, gosh, there's a pain line here. Actually, on this occasion, even people who were miles away spiritually are going, no, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think there's still, even though we're coming out of COVID, there's still that. And I sort of said, well, look, are we out now? And I talked to a medic yesterday who goes, look, I don't know if we are. We're worried about the amount of mixing happening now. So we know that we're still in a pretty precarious place. I pray we're heading out. But again, I think that shadow of what COVID's taught us means that there will be a hunger.
And the danger is that people immediately return back to some kind of normality and forget the vulnerability, which of course continues. And you're flagging that up. You're saying to them, no, look, you know, your life is a vapor. That's an eternal reality.
And be very dangerous. Be very beware of presumption. You know, these are gifts, and they're not givens. And I think my generation have been guilty of that. And the Lord has reset our thinking by going, okay, don't take it for granted. A bit like Lamentations, you can't even take the water and the wood for granted at some level. You know, so stop and think. So I'm really trying to, with James 4, hit what James is hitting, which is, you know, how do you presume? It's all a gift. Each breath is a gift, and your life's incredibly short. Now get with reality. And here's Jesus. Here's what he did on Good Friday and Easter Day, so that you could be forgiven and rescued and have hope. So hope is one of the things I keep saying is hope in your back pocket. It was for Pete and for his family. You know, as they lost him, they were people of hope. They're convinced they'll see him again on the day of reunion. Wouldn't that be a great thing to give people?
Well, I know I've seen the kind of burden not weigh you down, but lift you up, sort of thing. That this opportunity, and we're excited about that now. And it's great to get a chance to talk to you about it today. We hope people will be able to use this resource, get hold of it on all the normal channels, and use it just to punch it out and to get the conversation started, and then bring people into courses.
And I think anyone will be humbled by Pete's life and what he did. He laid it down, and you know, we need to honor that, you know, and it's a way of honor it by saying, look, what propelled him was his love for Christ, his knowledge of the resurrection. So, you know, good to understand that motivation, and then maybe find that hope for yourself too.
Amen. Thank you so much, Rico.